managing board that I represent, a warm welcome to Davos, although we're already Wednesday and many of us have been in Davos for a few days already. We're so grateful for Pathfinder's group, a long-standing partnership with the World Economic Forum, stretching now, I think, 30 years, over 30 years. And so thank you, Ikram and Zarrar, for your long-standing commitment. And when you first started coming to Davos, I was actually a student driving around the limousine in the early 90s. So a lot of time has passed since then. We also have the privilege to have in Davos Honorary Minister Aurangzeb. Thank you for joining us and for engaging with our program. And I want to recognize also, while I have the stage, the contribution of Prime Minister Sharif at our World Economic Forum special meeting in Saudi Arabia, which we had last year in April, where he delivered the closing address. And we would love to build on his engagement, on this engagement and your engagement here, to continue our relationship with Pakistan. As you know, we strive to build and promote public-private partnerships, and we bring together leaders from business, from government, from academia, from civil society for over 50 years here in Davos. And the theme of this annual meeting this year is collaboration for the intelligent age. And collaboration we need. Of course, geopolitics, climate, and technology are some of the big themes that are being discussed this year here in Davos. And intelligent age really refers to this notion that we have all these technologies now converging from AI to sensors, to synthetic biology, to quantum computing, converging and evolving exponentially. And that creates tremendous opportunities for medical research, for climate, for energy, but also for education. But of course, we want to make sure that the development and deployment of these technologies benefit society as a whole and all humans. And that is really at the core of the conversations here in Davos. We're currently running over 150 initiatives spanning across all of these issues, which I mentioned, with our partners to drive impact at a global scale. And one of the flagship initiatives I'd like to highlight here is the Edison Alliance. This is a collaboration to foster digital inclusion, which has already achieved its objective to connect 1 billion people to essential services like healthcare, education, finance, to digital platforms. And Pathfinder Group has been one of the leaders in this initiative, also with its project, the Asaan Mobile Account scheme, which provides financial access to the impoverished and vulnerable communities in Pakistan, and has catalyzed that. And I understand the scheme has already, in a very few years, closed on 12 million accounts. So congratulations for that. It's a demonstration of our multi-stakeholder approach to work between industries, to work with regulators, and we're really grateful for Ikram and your engagement and Pathfinder's engagement over so many years. And I wish you really a wonderful continuation of your stay here in Davos. Thank you.
Thank you, Zarrar. Thank you, Ikram Sahab. Greatly appreciate Pathfinder Group's invite, and it's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. I think I'll keep it brief and short. I don't know what your format is, if you're going to get into a Q&A.
We will.
Okay. So I just want to probably mention 2 or 3 things. One is you mentioned the fund. On the back of that, over the last 12 to 14 months, we have moved and made significant progress in terms of macroeconomic stability. It's evidenced by various matrices, which you have all seen, whether it's our FX reserves, which had dipped down to 2 weeks of import cover. They are a little over 2 months of import cover. We have a stable currency. We have gotten to a situation with respect to the twin deficits, which have been the bane of our country for the longest time. After a very long time, we have a primary balance on the fiscal side. The current account has been positive over the last 5 months. It's on the back of very strong remittance flows and also the exports. And the good news about exports is that we are actually diversifying. The number which has come in terms of IT services in December, $384 million of IT services export is an all-time high for the country, and it bodes well in terms of how we take things forward. Um, the institutional flows are back, both in terms of fixed income investors, although now given the policy rate coming down and the arbitrage opportunity going down, some of that is going back again. Uh, we see flows on the equity side as well. So the stock market is at all-time high, although much more to do over there as well. We did see some ratings upgrade in terms of the sovereign rating over the last few months. Uh, Inshallah, as we stay the course, I'm quite confident that we will see our move back into the single B category over the next few months, inshallah. Um, Now, this is all around the macroeconomic stability, and I keep on saying, and I know you are talking about digital tomorrow as well. That this is the foundation. This is the bare minimum that any country can do to get their macro stability in place. When you have something like that, of course, there, especially for foreign investors, what we can do is what we did back in May and June. All the stuck-up dividends and profit repatriation and remittances, close to $2.5 billion were paid between May and June of last year on the back of the stability that we had, so that we could get into this year on a cleaner slate, and hopefully not to be repeated again. Uh, the other thing is, with respect to the fund discussion, I think there was really two things which we decided under Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's leadership right away, that we have to, on the back of the 9-month SBA, that we have to get into an extended and larger program, really for two reasons. One, to bring permanence into the macroeconomic stability, and the other is to execute structural reforms. And Now, as far as these structural reforms are concerned, all of you have covered Pakistan, and you've been looking at Pakistan for the longest time, or you've lived in Pakistan for the longest time. We have known the what and why for the longest time. We just don't do it. So there is no rocket science. There is nothing, that we have to go and look for policy prescriptions. And it's fine. Everyone has their views and they want to give their views. But any country which is hovering in terms of tax to GDP, 9 to 10%, it's Econ 101, that we have to start moving it into double digit, so that we can get into Committee of Nations and try to bring some level of semblance in terms of the fiscal discipline. Energy, again, affordable energy, SOEs, the kind of drag these SOEs have had on our exchequer for years and years together. And now privatization. I mean, Qasim is sitting here. I mean, I always admire him for the public-private partnership and the leadership he has taken in the government of Sindh, and we should, learn from that discussion and what they have done and put it in practice in Sindh for the rest of the country, and certainly in federation. And the last thing is public finance, in terms of reducing the size of the federal government, especially after the 18th Amendment. We are still hanging on to things which are devolved subjects. There's no reason that we have to have these ministries. There are 43 ministries, 400 attached departments. Then also around the pension reform. So What we've done is for all uh, civil bureaucracy colleagues, as of July 1 of last year, we have sort of said anyone who's a new joiner will be on defined contribution. So we still have to deal with the stock, and stock is a very large number. But at least we have stopped the bleeding, and it wasn't easy. Similarly, the right sizing of the federal government, since I've been tasked to chair that committee, um, these attempts have been made previously. I've said it in a number of forums that Dr. Ishrat during the PTI administration did a fantastic job in terms of, and I picked up that report and it went into a lot of detail and was presented in the cabinet of June, July of 2019, never saw light of the day. Because when you are trying to go for a big bang approach, it at times it doesn't work, and it didn't work. So what we are now doing is we're taking it sort of bite size. We are taking 5 ministries at a time, um, looking at the attached departments, making decisions, taking it to the cabinet, taking it to the PM, getting decisions, and then looking at their implementation. So we are now at sort of wave 4. So 15 ministries are already done. You've seen some of the ministries which are going to be abolished, some of the ministries which are going to be merged, some of the departments which are going to go away. Um, 150,000 vacancies in the federal government have been abolished. So these are all things which are not in the planning, have already been announced, and we want to cover all of this by the time we get to June. Um, then, so these are some of the structural reforms and what we are trying to do. And the last thing I just want to mention is sort of a road back to the market. Because if we say, this is the last fund program, then there has to be some schematic around it. Because when you get into a stabilization phase, the first temptation is, okay, now let's go for growth. And we have seen it. And we have seen it in the recent past as well. But we also know that the moment we touch 4% in GDP growth, and we have seen it historically, we've seen it in the recent past, because we are in import-led and dependent economy, we get into a balance of payment problem. And once we get into a balance of payment problem, we go running back to the lender of the last resort. And we have seen all these cycles coming through. So what we need to do is to fundamentally change the DNA of the economy to make it export-led. The FDI, you all here, we value all the investment which has come in. We value all the foreign investors. Vion is sitting there, and we had a very good discussion yesterday as well. And there are other investments which have come in, whether it's BYD, whether it's Aramco, for the last 5 to 6 months. But we have to move towards an efficiency-led FDI, not market-led. Of course, we are 240 million people. Those people and the middle class is there. But every FDI which comes in has to have a component of producing an exportable surplus, because otherwise we will continue to be in this situation. And the last thing is, of course, accessing the international capital markets. As I said, the moment we go into single B, we try to go back into euro and sukuks, etc. And we are making a very earnest attempt to tap the Chinese capital markets for the first time in terms of inaugural panda bond issue following the Egyptian model. But that is sort of the road to market. The homegrown economic plan was outlined by the Prime Minister on the 31st of December. The only reason this time around, I feel it is different because it's backed by sectoral plans. This is not a 10,000, 15,000 type of discussions. They are backup and bottoms-up plans from the various ministries, which are now in execution phase as we go forward. I'm going to stop here so that other speakers can have a chance, and we'll take it from there.
I want to thank the Sehgal family for inviting me here, and I also want to say it's an honor to be on the stage with the Honorable Minister and Mr. Schwab earlier, and the others. So, from the perspective of U.S.-Pakistan relations, which I follow closely, the question of investment is a very salient one. U.S. investors have operated in Pakistan for quite some time in a range of spaces, and there is a well-established and long-standing U.S.-Pakistan Business Council attached to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. in Washington, some of the biggest American companies, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, many others, have invested in Pakistan for quite some time. And more broadly, as many of you will know, the U.S. has invested in Pakistani infrastructure, such as dams, as well as schools and hospitals over the years. Now, others are more well qualified than me to talk about the best sectors to look at and the challenges and opportunities in each of them. So I thought I'd use my few minutes to talk about a broader issue related to today's Pakistan. And in that regard, I'll make a modest proposal as a friend of Pakistan. And it relates to the issue of what I would describe as Pakistan's story. Officials, business leaders often aim to attract investment from the international community by making pitches to foreign interlocutors about why it's worth investing in Pakistan. And the pitch revolves around a number of things, and that might include things like Pakistan's untapped mineral reserves, its textile industry, its large and young population, its fledgling tech sector, and so on. I would argue, though, there might be a shortcoming here, and that is that today, if you look at the world around Pakistan, in the region and beyond, other countries and investors, particularly those from the West and the Gulf that are key Pakistani targets for investment, they are already doing a lot of investing and with more levels of confidence and comfort in other countries in Asia that have these same assets that Pakistan singles out in its pitches to investors. Now, India can offer mineral reserves, a large youth bulge, a robust tech industry. Fast-growing economies like Vietnam and Singapore have the tech growth potential. Bangladesh has a strong textile industry, and so on. And I think that this idea of rethinking the pitch, so to speak, is especially salient when it comes to the U.S. As you all know, we have a new administration that just took office this week. And I think that it will be a challenge, to be candid, at least initially, to get the attention of the Trump administration, to move the relationship forward. And I would argue that to pitch Pakistan as an important country because of its demographics and its strategic location, which is very true, might not get you as far as you would like with the next administration. So what I'm saying is that Pakistan's investment prospects might receive a boost if that pitch can be adjusted a bit so that it hones in on what truly makes Pakistan unique and as an investment destination. And I think that the onus will need to be on Pakistan and its government to take the initiative and be proactive about this. And I think that with macroeconomic indicators having stabilized a bit in Pakistan, as the minister was just noting, in terms of inflation coming down, foreign reserves coming down with new IMF support in place, perhaps now can be the time to think about how best to approach key partners, donors, investors in the United States and elsewhere. If you look at some of the figures that came out last year from the government, from Pakistan's government, about investment, it is notable that even though we saw some stabilization of the macroeconomy last year, there are indications that Pakistan's investment ratio went down, and I believe I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. Pakistan's investment ratio actually sunk to a 50-year low. It fell to just 13% of the size of the economy. And that's pretty significant, particularly that the economy had stabilized. So I think, and no one needs to listen to me. I'm probably the last person that the government of Pakistan should listen to. But I do think that as we look at how the world operates today, as we look at how Washington operates today, as we look at Pakistan's place in the region and in the world, I think it's worth having some useful conversations. And it's not my place to be saying what should be at the forefront of those conversations. What should be Pakistan's story? What can it offer to the world? There's much that it can offer, I'm sure, but it might be time, now might be a useful time to think more about that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Ikram Saab and Zarrar, for inviting me over. And thank you for everyone for attending here. It's an honor to be here. Just a little bit of background, if I can share that so people can have a context of it. I joined the Pakistan Software Exit Board 3 months ago as a chairman or as a CEO. But prior to that, I was in the US for 30 years, and I worked in the venture capital, private equity, as well as more tech space for the last 30 years. And I was always on the other side when I was actually getting work done or delivering the work or presenting the work. And so I understand some of these opportunities as well as the challenges that were there. So that puts me into that spot, and I always feel passionate about that. The opportunity that we have is far bigger than the challenges that we have. And I always felt that at some point I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take a plunge, and I'm going to do something about it. And that's where this moment came in 3 months ago when I decided to take a plunge. And let me just give you a little bit of a story of where we are. And I think Aurangzeb has very elaborately mentioned the whole macro indicators. I'm not going to go into that, but very specifically, if you look into the tech sector or IT sector, or in just general in the digital sector of things, things have been progressing well, but I think we have a tremendous opportunity. I think we have barely tipping the surface of it. Although we're growing probably one of the fastest sector, I think even in this year, we have been growing 28% on the exports in the first 6 months, and we're going to continue to probably accelerate that. One of the things and a few observations in the first 3 months of joining and looking at it, I understand the potential, I understand the infrastructure, I understand there's some of the challenges that are with the infrastructure, but despite of all of this, our resiliency, our commitment, and one of the big positive, I would say, is across the board. What I felt so heartwarming is there's such an alignment at all levels. In finance ministry, I can tell one, but from a PM and down to every sector you think about it, everybody knows this is the sector that we have to continue to do more. This is a sector we're going to continue to invest in. This is a sector we can easily get there. We are the only sector that probably has the biggest trade surplus in the country, and we'll continue to do that. I think there is no, one of the things that you do when you work in the public sector, and I'm a private sector guy, and I'm sure he can attest to that too. When you come from a private sector into public sector, you learn a lot of different things. But one thing is easy for us, for at least for myself, is I don't have to sell anybody what needs to be done. I think he very rightly so, and I felt it across the board. There are no shortage of studies. There's no shortage of what we can do and what we should have to do. It's just we have not been able to do it. Our problem has been the execution. Our problem has been historically like we have not been, yes, sometimes we have grand visions of it, but if you don't have an implementation and execution, and we don't have the right people in the right place to make it happen, it just becomes very difficult. And then we do it again and we do it again. And people start to lose credibility. And then international, for people who are outside, looking in from outside inside, you always felt like we have heard this story before. We have seen this, we have heard this has happened many times. What's different this time? And I think, again, by being inside in 3 months, don't take my word for it, but I can tell you for sure that there is no shortage and there is no lack of commitment from any sector across the board. And we were just literally yesterday, we were meeting with all the different ministries about how we ease some of these ease of doing business and all of these issues that we have in the infrastructure with Aurangzeb's ministries and state banks and FBRs and everybody else. We all are there, and everybody wants to do this thing. Nobody wants to commit. We presented our own sectoral plans to the Prime Minister, and within 2 hours, I think Prime Minister was so, he's just like, this is exactly what we want to do, how we want to do it. And he makes sure that every month we give them a monthly report, and he actually religiously do that. And I don't think there's any Prime Minister of a country asks for an IT report in every 30 days. But our Prime Minister does, because he's very passionate about it, and we see a lot of opportunities. So I'll leave it here, and then I know you're going to ask follow-up questions.
I know people don't want to talk about the potential, but I think if you look at Pakistan's existing landscape, it's even just to say something for the Pathfinder group, VRG has created a homemade switch created by Pakistani software. Nothing was imported. So it's a matter of pride that these things are being created inside Pakistan by Pakistanis. So you can see already in there. And, it's not just the special technology zones, but the part that, there are about 50 software parks that have been created in Pakistan by this government and the previous government. And the fact that we are one of the top 5 English-speaking countries, and a lot of times, our geopolitical location can be a curse, unstable borders. But I think if you look at a geostrategic location, it's also a big benefit. We are the gateway to Central Asia. We're the gateway to Europe. We can be the gateway to Africa as well. So, these are elements that can make Pakistan very, very successful. So thank you to all our speakers as well.
Minister, thank you for being here, and we're very grateful. and we've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things. I'm very grateful, even Oliver is not here, but a lot of work that has happened with the Edison Alliance
Yes.
for the Asaan Mobile Account has been because of support the World Economic Forum has given us. And the only thing, Minister, I will say is that we are recognized in the world, not in Pakistan. Somehow, you know.
No,
But
we will do that. I know, sir, there's a discussion on the digital side tomorrow.
yeah,
I do think, the work that you have done in terms of Asaan Mobile,
yeah,
the payment rails that have now been created vis-a-vis RAS,
yeah.
these are all such key enablers in terms of financial inclusion. And of course, the Vion and Jazz team is sitting here.
Yeah.
The sky is the limit for us.
Yes, but what happens is everybody takes into consideration their own self-interest, right? Even though Jazz helped us a lot of time when we launching the Asaan Mobile Account and all that. When it came to agent interoperability, they put the foot down and waited while we were waiting for Easy. But Habib Bank and Habib Connect and Easy Pass has connected. We are now officially agent interoperability. But hopefully they will look after the interest of Pakistan also, not only on their own interest and this thing, etc. Right? So, thank you very much.